So we will assume that the workers multiplied by time is directly proportional to the amount of work done, and that 4 painters can paint 6 houses in 10 weeks. Let me give you a little background about why this is so. Every 2 weeks, my housekeeper comes to clean the house, and she can do it in 4 hours. Now, sometimes she brings her sister with her to help. So how long should it take them if they work together, assuming that they both work at the same rate? If one housekeeper can clean my house in 4 hours, how long will it take two housekeepers? Would it take 8 hours? Or does that not? Yeah, it would just be 2 hours exactly. Thank you for your responses in the chat and visually. I love it when you have your videos on. So that's the same thing that's going on here. The amount of work done increases when you increase the workers. It also increases when you increase the time. And we used to call this man hours, which is kind of implying that the kind of work that men do. I don't really like that term. So I call it worker time. So the amount of work that you can do is directly proportional to the workers times the time. Aha. So in this case, I called the workers P for painter and T for time and W for the amount of work done. So the painters times the time is 40. All right. Any combination of painters and weeks that will multiply to 40, you can paint 6 houses. If you have only 2 painters, it's going to take 20 weeks. If you have one painter, yikes, it's going to take 40 weeks. If you have 40 painters, it's going to take 1 week because 40 times 1 is 40. If you have 20 painters, they can do it in 2 weeks because 20 times 2 is 40. Any combination of numbers that multiply together to give you 40 is going to be the amount of work that they can do is 6 houses. Now, of course, it gets ridiculous after a while because it gets so, you can, well, how many houses can a million painters paint in an hour and a half? I don't know. We don't want to get too crazy with that. So basically, page 30 in your book is going to be the only page that you need to refer to in order to work the problems on the next test, which are, the next test is going to be Wednesday or Thursday of next week, I believe is what it says in the syllabus. So check this out. If you want to know how many painters are required to paint 19 houses in 23 days, see, these numbers are not particularly agreeable because they're not whole numbers. 19 is not a whole number times 6, and 23 is not a whole number times 10. However, the workers times the time is P times 23. And P times 23, or 23P, over 19 must equal 40 over 6. That's what it means, that the amount of work is directly proportional to the workers times the time. And if it's given that 4 times 10 over 6, that's the standard, then we're going to do each one of these as the workers times the time divided by the work. And once you write that out, this looks like a minus sign here to me, but it's actually an equal sign. If you multiply this out, you're going to find 6 times 23p equals 19 times 40. Now, a little computational trick that I've shown you before, and I think it's pretty legitimate, is this. Once you set this up, in fact, some of you can work this problem after you set up the proportion without writing anything else down. You're going to do 6 times 23p equals 19 times 40. Then whatever 19 times 40 is, you're going to divide it by whatever 6 times 23 is. So if you take your handy dandy computer calculator and do 19 times 40, you can say equals if you want to, then I'm going to divide that, but I don't really care if it's 760, it doesn't matter. I'm going to divide that by 6 times 23. And the cute way of doing that is you can divide it by 6 and then immediately divide, not multiply, divide it by 23. And you get that ugly number, and it says answer to the nearest 0.01, which is 2 decimal places. And that's why it's 5.51, because the 7 is big enough to bump the 0 up to 1. Now, because you have workers, work, and time, there are 3 kinds of problems you can have. The second one is how much work can be done by 9 painters in 7 weeks. How much work can be done? Again, 9 times 7 divided by W must equal 40/6. And yes, you can simplify that if you want to, but sometimes it's not convenient. So 9 times 7, yes, it's 63, or you could just do 40W equals 6 times 9 times 7. And in fact, you can take out your calculator and do 6 times 9 times 7 divided by 40, and you're done, if you can visualize that well. The third variable would be time. How long will it take 15 painters to paint 13 houses? I'm calling it T. Well, 15T over 13, because workers times time divided by work must equal the standard 40/6. And again, you can just say 13 times 40 divided by 15 divided by 6, and you'll get 5.78. It's important. Once in a while, I'll have someone not really uh, choose to use the original given data to work the individual problem. Sometimes people will take the answer from number 1 to work number 2, and it will work. But if you round off, you're going to have a bigger and bigger round off error. One time, a student worked number 1, and then from the answer to number 1, used those 3 numbers to work number 2, and for the answer to number 2, use those 3 numbers to work number 3, all the way, all 10 of them. And the problem was, he actually missed number 1, and guess what? Missed all of them. So my recommendation is you go back to the given every time. And again, 4 times 10 divided by 6 is going to be the answer to workers times time divided by work for every single one of these. Okay. And I know it's only one page, page 30, but guess what? That is actually all you need. Now I'm going to see if I can track down the answer sheet to this. It's called Practice on page 30. And as usual, I don't really want to annoy you to death or even to critical condition. And I don't want to bore you to the same level of illness, but I want you to work, quote, enough problems until you're confident that you understand this and you can ask questions. Well, whenever you want to, whenever something pops up. But I'm going to be trying to track down the answer sheet so that I can send it to you, to pages 30, which is called Practice, and 31, which is called More Practice, I guess. Or maybe that was 31, yeah. And then 32 is like More Practice. All right. Yeah, I'm glad y'all understood that about the housekeeper. If one housekeeper can clean it in 4 hours, and 2 housekeepers, they don't take twice as much time, take half as much time. Okay, I'm going to be quiet now and try to find that. You can pop up in there and ask me anything you want, anytime you want. And I will share my screen and do my best to clear things up. The test is going to be in 9 days. Dun, 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 dun. All right, here's an interesting little thing from page 32, I believe. It says, notice that the unit of time in the problem must match that of the given months. For example, if it's given that 12 pipe layers can lay 6 miles of pipe in 9 months, then how many pipe layers are required to lay 27 miles of pipe in 30 months? So again, the workers times the time divided by work is a constant. So in this case, this is my X, 30X divided by 27 must equal 12 times 9 divided by 6. And then of course we would cross multiply. Now, some of you would be able to visualize using your calculator without having to actually write anything down or type it in. For example, if you know that you're going to do 6 times 30x, and you know you're going to do 27 times 12 times 9, and what you're going to do after you do 27 times 12 times 9 is you're going to divide by 6 times 30. Now, you may or may not be able to do that in your head, but you don't have to. Either way, you can just do 27 times 12 times 9, 27 times 12. Don't forget to look at every single number times 9. And if you want to say equals, you can. Now, you can either say divided by 180, or you can say divided by 30, and then divided by 6, not times, unless you put it in parentheses, and get 16.2. Whoa, and that comes out even in 2 places, so that's all you need to do. On the other hand, how many miles of pipe can 32 pipe layers lay in 3 years? Okay, now the 12 times 9 divided by 6 is a constant, but that 9 is in months. So in this case, you would have to do 32 times 3 years over x. So that would be 32 times 3 years, but 3 years is 36 months. Or I could equivalently change the 9 months to 9 divided by 12 is 0.75 years. And that should give us the same answer, by the way. All right, so in this case, I'm going to do 6 times 32 times 36, and then divide that by whatever 12 times 9 is. Or I can say 6 times 32 times 36, and then divided by 12 times 9, or divided by 12 divided by 9. And hopefully that will be the correct answer. I'll have to double check that before I send these out. But I'm working on the answer sheet to these problems as well. Any other questions, let me know.